I got a big family, a big family. These were the words spoken by Tommy Moreno, younger brother to Michael Boo Boo Moreno, a very powerful Mexican Mafia member. Tommy, who had testified at a recent trial, said, "I've got 9 brothers and 6 sisters. Out of my 9 brothers, 5 of them are La M members. There is Michael, better known as Mike Boo Moreno, Jesse, nicknamed Pelon, serving a life sentence for racketeering and said by his lawyers at the age of 83 to be seriously ill. Eddie Moreno, who died of an overdose behind bars. Pete, who was doing life in Arizona for shooting to death a man outside of a Phoenix bar. And Tommy T-Bug Moreno, who has been in prison since 1983 for bank robbery and attacking another inmate at the Lompoc Penitentiary. Today's video is going to be about Michael Boo Boo Moreno, his rise through Varrio Norwalk 13, ultimately becoming a Mexican Mafia member, and his very important role in an attempted alliance between the Mexican Mafia and a one-time very powerful drug cartel in Mexico known as La Familia Michoacan.
And this week we will show you how these gangs smuggle an astonishing amount of drugs into prison and influence drug trade on the street. They abuse the court system to keep all this working, and at the root of it all lies murder. And tomorrow we'll have that story.
It's an organization of killers, a prison gang that uses murder as a rite of passage and for persuasion. But most astounding is that this trail of murder reaches outside the prison walls and into our neighborhoods. Chris Blatchford has this extraordinary story in part 2 of his special report.
This is Rene Enriquez, nicknamed Boxer. He's sitting in court facing 2 murder charges and 2 attempted murder charges. And he's laughing about it. Branded on his chest is a tattoo showing the black hand of the Mexican Mafia. And this one-time Mexican Mafia associate describes Boxer as typically dangerous.
These individuals, they stab you in front of everybody. Everybody. And if anybody gets in the way, they're going to get stabbed too. That's just the way it is.
Gang sources tell Channel 2 Boxer Enriquez came out of Folsom Prison in late 1989 with Mexican Mafia orders to kill. In this East LA neighborhood dominated by a street gang called White Fence, Boxer's target was David Gallegos, a renegade Mexican Mafia member who was not kicking back money or drugs to his Mafia brothers. CDDA Frank Johnson is prosecuting the case.
They really don't care if they're caught or not. They do virtually outrageous crimes with impunity, and you really get the impression from dealing with these people that whether they're in prison or out, it's not really of much consequence to them.
Boxer was arrested soon after the double hit in East LA and sent back to county jail to await trial. And here in a holding cell at the criminal courts building several months later, Boxer allegedly stabbed Mexican Mafia member Henry Indio Carlos 29 times, a retaliation hit. And last summer, here in full view at the attorney interview room in county jail, Boxer struck again. Using smuggled-in handcuff keys to free himself, Boxer and a second hitman allegedly stabbed Mexican Mafia member Sal Buenrostro. Prison gang politics. This former Mexican Mafia associate says it happens all the time.
It's like being in a tank of piranhas with no food. And, before you know it, somebody starts moving a certain way and they're all on it.
Buenrostro, stabbed 30 times by his Mafia brothers, recovered from his wounds, but there is always another victim on the hit list. This Mexican Mafia veteran says the average member has murdered at least 3 people.
You start to enjoy it after the first time. To see a person plead and cry for help, literally pray to you like if you're a saint, and you just get, you get hopped up on the blood and everything. It's weird. It's a sickness.
A sickness that clearly infected Mexican Mafia hitman Ruben Tupi Hernandez. Only 12 days after getting out of Folsom Penitentiary, he comes here to his old neighborhood in Ontario, home of the Black Angel street gang. Word is, Mary Lou Davila, a small-time drug dealer, paid $10,000 for the death of a Mexican Mafia member who was shaking her down for drugs. Tupi picked up the Mexican Mafia contract that sought revenge. Went to Davila's house one Sunday evening. Maria Malordes, who rented a room from Davila, and her fiancé, Pancho Ortiz, two innocent bystanders, just returned home from a night out. Of the victims, who choose not to be identified, say Tupi was amused when prosecutors said they would not seek the death penalty.
Looked us directly in the face and laughed at us. He just thought this was just a game. He looked us straight in the eye and laughed.
Tupi Hernandez is serving 3 consecutive life terms without parole here at California's maximum security prison in Pelican Bay. But last March, about a year and a half after Tupi's conviction, a gunman late one night walked down this Ontario sidewalk and opened fire with a semi-automatic weapon, killing Black Angel gang member Roger Soto while he slept in bed. The man whose testimony put Tupi Hernandez behind bars. Mafia sources say the orders came from Pelican Bay.
We've got an organization of murderers, really.
That's what it is. Like a murder incorporated, that's what it is.
A murder incorporated that continues to strike in and outside jail. Murder, explains one Mexican Mafia member, breeds fear. And that fear is also used to run a sizable drug dealing enterprise in and outside prison walls. And we'll have details on that story tomorrow.
More on violence behind bars. Now, criminals are sent to prison, of course, to pay for their crimes. But in reality, for some, there's a big payroll for dealing drugs inside prison walls. In part 3 of a special report on prison gangs now, Channel 2's Chris Blatchford says drugs are flowing in and out of jail.
This is a maximum security state prison complex at Tehachapi. Razor wire tops high-reaching walls designed to stop inmates from getting out. Here at the Palm Hole Maximum Security Unit at Chino, it is the same. Hardcore prison gang inmates. Locked in their cells 95% of the time. Few ever manage to get out. But this former Mexican Mafia associate says it is easy to get drugs in.
Well, if you got money, it's not really hard. There's a lot of drugs inside the prison system.
This Mexican Mafia soldier, boxer Enriquez, is using a walker to help him get around. The reason, while in L.A. County's Central Jail, he got a hold of so much heroin he overdosed. This former prison gang member who was a dealer says it is as easy to get drugs in jail as it is outside.
Yeah, you can almost get drugs in anywhere. Any type of drugs down on the street. From crank to heroin, from cocaine to weed. That's no problem.
And it is big business, especially here in the L.A. County Jail, where there are a large number of inmates coming and going. Security is easier to breach, and prisoners are allowed to carry cash. Deputy District Attorney John Monahan.
It fits into the L.A. County Jail. You have, almost 20,000 people in that jail system. A good number of them are narcotic abusers. So if you're able to supply their demand, you obviously can make a lot of money.
So Monahan explains the Aryan Brotherhood leadership here at Chino Prison in the early 80s set down policies to control the lucrative prison drug market. They formed an alliance with the Mexican Mafia, also called MA. Their formula for success is pretty simple.
I would say that they get a cut out of anything that their own peoples get access to. Because people's not fortunate enough to come up with the money, then they have hit, show an example that they mean business.
Prosecutors say Aryan Brotherhood kingpin John Stinson was making at least $5,000 a week running a massive drug ring while locked up for 6 years in the maximum security section of county jail. Prosecutors say his wife, Debbie, busted here at her Garden Grove home, helped him from the outside. She allegedly passed heroin to a woman in South Central Los Angeles, who in turn gave it to a sheriff's deputy who brought it into the county jail. Also, she allegedly had a private investigator hand over pens filled with cocaine here in the jail attorney room. Authorities believe attorneys were also used to smuggle in drugs.
There's so many individuals in the visitor room that's impossible for them to watch everybody.
Visitors are also recruited to bring in golf ball-sized bindles of heroin wrapped in balloons.
They call it keystering it, and they bring it in, they go to the bathroom, they take it out, then they bring it to a certain person, and they do as well as go back to the bathroom, put it away as well. And that's the way a lot of drugs come in.
Jail trustees who have work assignments around the jail are recruited to take the dope to customers in their cells. Inmates can place orders through what they call a mail-out. It works like this. Prosecutors say John Stinson would give inmates a post office box number here in Westminster. It belonged to his wife, Debbie. Inmates would get relatives to send a money order to the P.O. box, and the drugs would be delivered into the jail. Needles used to inject their narcotics were stolen from the jail infirmary. This Mexican Mafia soldier says it is easy and profitable.
You make way more inside than outside.
Deputies say they have already busted the Stinson drug ring in county jail. Among others, Mexican Mafia member Boxer Enriquez and the Aryan Brotherhood's Joe Govey are being prosecuted. But both are already facing prison terms for other criminal offenses. And prosecutors say this penchant for prison gang crime poses a dilemma.
There's no threat that you can hang over many people that are in prison that continue to commit offenses. There's absolutely, positively no threat at all. They pretty much can do whatever they want to do, secure in the knowledge that nothing else really can be done to them.
And because of that, prosecutors are not even going to charge Aryan Brotherhood boss John Stinson in his own alleged drug ring. Prosecution, they say, in fact...
What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of Greenlit Gang TV. Hope y'all having a blessed day. Hope y'all had a good Thanksgiving, if you do celebrate Thanksgiving, that is. But really quick, before I jump into it, you already know what you got to do. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. We're closing in on 26,000 subscribers, but that's not the goal. If you followed it all the last few weeks, you know that the goal after hitting 25K is now 30,000 subscribers, and we will get there when we get there. It's crazy, man. 2026 is approaching so fast. Now that Thanksgiving is done, it's kind of all downhill, right? I mean, you're going to hit Christmas, and then within less than a week, you're rolling right into the new year. But we are going to be rolling with the videos. We're going to be continuing cranking these out. I feel like November's been a pretty good month for the content. I hope you guys have been enjoying the videos I've been making. And give me some feedback, guys. I love hearing what you think, what you like, what you don't like. You know, for me, it's all positive. So today, like I said in the intro, we're going to be talking about Michael "Boo Boo" Moreno. Now he's currently about 67 years old, and he's out of Norwalk, California. He's a Mexican Mafia member that controls many Northern California counties. He is the second to the youngest of 5 brothers that are made members of the Mexican Mafia. And what's crazy, and I never read this. Oh, and really quick, this was on the Prison Chronicles post. Great social media page. Go check them out. But it never ends with this last sentence. And it says he was released. Yes, he is out on the streets in 2023. And I'm kind of like, man, I he's at the age where he's going to have grandkids. I wish nothing but the best for him. I hope he makes the most of these, what you would call like golden years of his life. And then we talked about in the intro, his brothers. He's one of 5 Mexican Mafia members who are all brothers. Jose Moreno, Pelon, Pete Moreno, who was serving a life sentence in Arizona for that bar shooting murder. Tommy Moreno, also known as T-Bug, been in prison since '83 for bank robbery and attacking an inmate. And then sadly, one of the brothers, Eddie Moreno, he died of an overdose while he was also in prison. A couple quick facts, right? Michael "Boo Boo" Moreno is a reputed Mexican Mafia member sentenced to 11 years in prison December 2022 for his role in conspiring with La Familia Michoacan. We're going to read from an article that gives an entire breakdown on that. That was absolutely crazy. One thing I will say that seems to be in common with all these guys' cases, they all get caught up with snitches. They all get caught up with gang members who turn informant. And Michael Moreno's case, or this federal case that he got caught up in and sentenced for in 2022, is no different. Also known by the nickname as Boo or Boo Boo, held significant power within the prison gang structure. He was an alleged high-ranking member of the Mexican Mafia, or MA, who controlled various rackets, including drug sales, taxation, and extortion, particularly in San Luis Obispo and the Santa Barbara counties. Like we talked about a little bit in the intro, the Cartel Alliance. Moreno was a key figure in orchestrating an alliance between the Mexican Mafia and La Familia Michoacan drug cartel, an arrangement described by prosecutors as a, quote, marriage between the two criminal organizations. He helped the cartel exchange money and drugs for protection within the prison system and muscle on the streets. He was arrested in August of 2013. We're going to be reading about that arrest as well. And then we jump ahead to almost 10 years later, where he was basically picked up again in 2022 and sentenced. That operation in 2013 was called Operation La Halle. Wiretapped phone calls, often made using contraband cell phones, revealed that Moreno was involved in managing his criminal enterprise from behind bars, including settling disputes over taxes on illegal goods like cell phones smuggled into prison. So the guy, like with a lot of these Mexican Mafia bosses, they control everything from behind bars. He was involved in a power struggle with another Mexican Mafia member, Michael Torres, also known as Michael Madrigal. Put his picture up there for you guys. I've done a video on him over control of the Ventura area and collection rackets in various prisons. Now, interestingly enough, Michael Torres would end up being murdered in prison. If you want to know more about that, go check out my video on that. And like I said, he gets sentenced in 2022, but with the time he'd already done, he actually did a substance abuse program. He got out about a year later after that 11-year sentence. But let's jump into this article from August 6th of 2013. And the one thing about this is Michael Landa-Rodriguez plays a huge part in Michael Moreno's story. I read on Michael Landa-Rodriguez that between 2011 and 2018, he had 3 huge indictments come down on him for cases just like this. Federal cases, big RICO conspiracy cases. So it kind of shows the power that Landa-Rodriguez had as well. Excuse me, guys. No AI here, man. Straight off the muscle. We're recording right off the iPhone. Okay, August 6, 2013. Federal, state, and local authorities arrested people named in 2 federal grand jury indictments that contend the gang allied with the cartel and the Southern Los Angeles County street gang to run drugs and guns. And if you didn't pick it up on the intro, he is from Varrio Norwalk 13. Norwalk, man, I would say just very, very well known, very, very violent. They beef with Arta 13 or Artesia 13. Some very well-known La MA members come out of each one of those cliques, each one of those neighborhoods. Norwalk is just synonymous with Southsiders, with gang violence. They're just one of those neighborhoods. They're just one of those barrios. The crackdown included Michael Bu Moreno, who was only 55 at this time, of Fresno, and Jibby Rube Soto of Visalia. He's actually Ruben, but they call him Rube. I put his picture up there. Man, he's older. He was 70. Well, it says 77 in this article, 2013. Now, I will say a couple things. Sometimes when you see posts or articles, it gives these guys ages, and they'll mess them up. I 100% confirmed Michael Bu Moreno's age was 55 at this time in 2013. I confirmed his age now. I'm willing to bet that Rube Soto's age was 77 back then, but still, I'm just putting that out there. Sometimes these articles and these sites make mistakes. And Rube Soto was also a made Mexican Mafia member. Authorities said both men are alleged members of the Mexican Mafia. Quote, today's salvo against the Mexican Mafia is part of a 20-year fight to curb the influence of the prison gang, both inside prison walls and on the streets of Southern California, according to U.S. Attorney Andre Barat Jr. Authorities have long contended that the Mexican Mafia controls drug dealing and other criminal activities by local Hispanic street gangs from behind bars. Authorities arrested 8 of 13 people named in an indictment that claims Mexican Mafia formed an alliance known as, quote, the Project, with La Familia Michoacana in exchange for drugs and money. The Michoacan-based cartel was allowed to sell methamphetamine and marijuana in Southern Cali, and the Mexican Mafia agreed to protect imprisoned members, according to the July indictment. Local street gangs were ordered to protect La Familia drug shipments and to collect drug debts, according to the indictment. La Familia Michoacan and its successor, Los Caballeros Templarios, or the Knights Templar, have shipped hundreds of thousands of pounds of drugs into the U.S., the indictment said. Authorities also arrested 14 of 31 people named in racketeering indictments that contends the Mexican Mafia used the Florencia 13 street gang to make money through drug and gun running, illegal gambling, extortion, and fraud. Florencia 13 is a huge street gang in Southern California. I've done multiple videos on them. A lot of guys also have become made members of the Mexican Mafia. They seized like 600 pounds of meth. State charges were also filed against 6 other people. And our guy, Boo Boo, got wrapped up in this, was a key figure in all of this. Now, the big one, okay? Jump ahead, December 16th, 2022. This is a very long article, a lot of good information in this. Let's just jump into it. Michael Moreno, a reputed member of the Mexican Mafia, has been jailed for more than 9 years on a charge that he helped orchestrate a novel but ultimately thwarted alliance with a Mexican drug cartel that wanted to trade money and drugs for protection in prison and muscle on the streets. After pleading guilty this year, Moreno, now 65, stood before U.S. District Court Judge Christina A. Snyder on Wednesday, dressed in a white jumpsuit, hands shackled to the waist, his salt and pepper hair cropped short. I feel like that's a really good image. You got a guy, and he's literally has battle scars on his face. He's got that huge scar going from his lip up his cheek. He's worn, right? He looks tired. He's been through a lot. He's someone who's put his time on the streets. And so in a way, and I know I might get some shit for this, I'm kind of happy that he got released. I kind of hope the best for him, and I hope he enjoys his golden years. Okay, the judge asked if he wanted to say anything before he was sentenced, and he goes, no, I'm okay. I'm okay. Snyder sentenced Moreno to 11 years in prison, but because of the time he has spent in custody and credit he's entitled to for completing a substance abuse program and not being disciplined while behind bars, Moreno was expected to be released soon, said his lawyer Robert Bernstein. Among the conditions of a 4-year probation, Snyder forbade Moreno from associating with members of the Mexican Mafia or others known to be participants in the MA's criminal activities, with the exception of family members. And that is huge for a guy like Moreno, because like we said, he is one of 5 brothers who are made members of the Mexican Mafia member. And read this line. No other family has contributed more members to the Mexican Mafia, the prison-based syndicate that controls Latino gang members in prison and on the streets of the Southern California, than the Morenos. And that's his brother that I read the intro in. I got a big family. Moreno's younger brother, Tommy, testified at a recent trial. I've got 9 brothers and 6 sisters. Out of my 9 brothers, 5 of them are Mexican Mafia members. The federal case against Michael Moreno began in 2011 when Jose Landa-Rodriguez, very big name, a Mexican Mafia member then held at a federal prison in Virginia, turned to him for helping realizing a dream of drug trafficking alliance. 2 brothers who sold drugs in the San Fernando Valley, Hugo and Freddie Montez, had reached out to Landa-Rodriguez with a proposal. A task force officer for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, better known as the ATF, wrote in a wiretap application. La Familia Michoacan, a now defunct Mexican cartel that mostly trafficked in methamphetamine, was willing to put up cash and drugs at below market prices if, in exchange, the Mexican Mafia agreed to protect the cartel's members in U.S. prisons and collect drug debts on the streets, the officers wrote. Landa-Rodriguez called Moreno, who was then on parole in Fresno. Quote, this will open doors for all of us to become, because the future is big. Sorry, I read that wrong. This will open the doors for all of us because the future is big. A native of Michoacan who faced deportation after finishing his prison term, Landa-Rodriguez told Moreno the traffickers wanted him to one day take charge of, quote, the whole family, referring to the cartel, an FBI agent wrote. As a step towards cementing the deal, Freddie Montez, who had ties to La Familia Michoacan, delivered cash from the cartel to a Mexican Mafia member, Ralph Perico Rocha, remember that name, who in turn gave some of it to Moreno. According to testimony at Landa-Rodriguez's trial, the cartel figures and Mexican Mafia members pursuing the alliance intended to share the money with imprisoned Mexican Mafia members to build support for it. So basically, they're working on this alliance, some of the higher-ups, and they go, hey, if we kick back some of this cash to some of these other MA members that are imprisoned, all over the country, they'll probably warm up to the idea of this alliance, which is what they were trying to get accomplished. Rocha, however, this is what we talk about, man. All these guys go down from rats, basically, wiretaps, but it's always an informant that brings all of this down, to its knees. Rocha, however, was secretly an informant for the ATF. He was wearing a wire when he told Moreno that the traffickers wanted their help pushing out dealers who weren't selling their drugs. Quote, they want to be known at the calles, streets. Quote, that if you ain't got familia drugs, only type of paraphernalia they got going, then you are not allowed to do anything, and we can let the homies know. We don't give a fuck who it is. Black, white, green, Chinese, everybody, shut it down. They would be La Familia Michoacan's, quote, security detail, Rocha said. Quote, let them do all the drug dealing. Let them do all that. And all we do is get the feria, which basically just means money for the protection. A grand jury in 2013 indicted 6 Mexican Mafia members, including Moreno and Landa-Rodriguez, and 7 other defendants on charges of conspiring with the cartel to sell drugs in the United States. Landa-Rodriguez and several other defendants went to trial in 2019, and this is crazy, and they beat it. You never hear about that. Landa-Rodriguez remains jailed on unrelated charges of distributing drugs, committing extortion, and ordering murders with the Los Angeles County jail system. He has pled not guilty and is awaiting trial. A year after he was indicted in federal court, Moreno was charged by Ventura County authorities who had been leading their own investigation into his grip over local gangs and drug rackets. Detectives in Ventura County caught on to Moreno in 2013 when an associate of the Mexican Mafia, Alejandro Danger Ornales, was discharged from Pelican Bay State Prison after finishing a 13-year term for robbery. A member of the Oxnard Colonia Chiques gang since he was 13, Ornales returned to his old neighborhood with instructions from the underworld heavyweights he'd been in prison with. Detective Victor Medina of the Ventura County Sheriff's Department wrote in a wiretap application, "The county was in the midst of a power struggle with Moreno on one side and another Mexican Mafia member, Martin Evil Madrigal, on the other," Medina wrote. And I've done a video on Martin Evil Madrigal. Very similar story. Cartel dealings, ended up being killed in Baja California. A lot of mystery surrounding his life and his death as well. Go check that out. Madrigal seemed to be on the losing end, according to the detective's affidavit. His lieutenants had been arrested, and other Mexican Mafia members were sending word from state prison, and this is huge, that no one was to pay the taxes to him. And that's that dime. That's that infamous Mexican Mafia dime that all drug dealers and local gang members have to pay. Latino gangs must make regular payments to Mexican Mafia members who have divided Southern California and other areas of the state into personal fiefdoms, which just means piggy banks. While most gangs come up with their tax by collecting money from drug dealers who sell in their territory, they will also rob people, burglarize homes, and extort perfectly legal businesses to meet their obligations. And that's kind of where I part from them a little bit. I don't mind taxing your drug dealers. I don't mind taxing the guys that you're selling dope to. But leave the mom and pop businesses alone. Leave them the fuck alone. I don't like that. A month after he left Pelican Bay, Ornales called a meeting of Ventura County gang members at a Mexican seafood restaurant in Calabasas. According to Medina's affidavit, one of the attendees was wearing a wire. Ornales declared he was working for Boo Boo and the Viejo, Moreno, and another Mexican Mafia member, James Rube Soto, the old man. I got a picture of him. Whatever taxes Madrigal had been paid in the past would now go to them, Ornales told the group. If there was any resistance, he warned that, quote, he had a crew from L.A. lined up already, and they were killers, Medina wrote. Authorities obtained a wiretap on Moreno's phone. They listened as inmates on prison yards throughout the state sought Moreno's blessing to work under his authority and offered to send him money for the privilege, Medina wrote. It gives you an idea of the amount of power that our guy Boo Boo had. Moreno was overheard telling an underling, quote, the guys in Oklahoma, in apparent reference to the contracted out-of-state facilities where corrections officials once sent inmates to relieve an overburdened prison system. So basically Cali's, overrun with an inmate population. So they're kicking out inmates to other federal facilities and other state facilities. Could send the money to a computer company he'd registered at a post office box. Moreno has pled guilty to 2 counts of conspiracy with a gang enhancement in the Ventura case. Court records show prosecutors have agreed to a time-served sentence that will not add time to his federal term. Quote, he's looking forward to going home with his grandchildren and family. That's crazy, man. Moreno boasted he'd bought a new house on the better side of Fresno with 2 stories, 5 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and an underground bomb shelter. Wow. Okay. Well, hopefully he's living there right now, chilling out with his grandkids, sipping coffee, and staying out of trouble. But something tells me he still might be doing his thing. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Again, hope y'all had a blessed weekend. And let's keep grinding out, man. One day at a time. Stay sober. Life is good sober. If you're struggling, reach out. Get the help. Go to a meeting. Call somebody. Go help somebody before you get caught up in your own head. I'm a selfish individual. And I had a sponsor one time tell me, before you call me with all your problems, not that he didn't want me to call him, but I had a guy tell me, he was a sponsor, he told me, before you call me complaining about this or that, or me and my girl are fighting, or she's mad at me because I got caught talking to girls again because I was a serial cheater, or I'm pissed about this or that. He's like, have you ever stopped and thought the world doesn't revolve around you? Go help somebody. Go buy 5 black coffees from your local 7-Eleven and go hand them out to people in need. And seriously, do that. And tell me at the end of that if you don't feel better. I just challenge you. Any of you listening to this video, if you've made it to the end, you probably haven't, but if you have, go hand out 5 black coffees to homeless people. And just tell me, even if your life is shit right now, that you don't feel better at the end of it. Have a blessed night.